Hello, this is Jess with her Mood Mentor, and today I am meeting with one of my Integrative Menstrual Health Coaching and PMDD Rehab students, Jackie, and she's here to share her history with PMDD and what she was able to achieve through taking an integrative approach to symptom management and reduction. Hi, Jackie.
Hi,
So excited to chat with you today.
me too.
So we're quite well acquainted, but everyone is going to be curious to hear from you directly what it was like living with PMDD, what symptoms you experienced that were the most challenging, and how long had you been dealing with these symptoms before we met?
So I think this really started in 2015 for me. And I think it was kind of triggered by stopping taking birth control and a new job and like life stressors and things like that. And it's kind of just spiraled a bit out of control. And so, really, I was dealing with a lot of depression and anxiety, crying spells. I was suicidal. I couldn't really function at my new job. I thought I was going to lose my job, and my relationship was really suffering. I was not pleasant to be with. And I was just really struggling with myself and how I felt, and then also with some physical symptoms like breast pain and bloating and, just the whole gamut of all of the symptoms. It was really distressing and really felt like I didn't really have a way out of that. Couldn't figure out like how to improve that, even though I was, taking some supplements and like seeing a doctor. Like I just felt like it was not really getting better. So
Mm,
dealt with it for many multiple years now.
mm. What ultimately led you to working with an integrative practitioner for these symptoms, like myself?
So like I said, I was really not doing well. And so eventually I decided to take an SSRI because I felt like I didn't really have any other options. It was really just really bad. And so I actually tried multiple medicines, and finally I found one that kind of helped, but it's not like 100% better. Like this is kind of just like a parachute, or a band-aid. And so I still need some sort of support and some help from someone who's been there and done that and got themselves kind of out of the hole and understand how they did that, and kind of just have some camaraderie too of someone who understands what how bad it was and how much I was struggling, and that there's, some hope to get better. So that's really, and I was looking to see like, okay, I've been doing a lot of my own research and trying a lot of things for myself, only getting so far. And so I really just was interested, like, okay, what else is there that I don't know? What else can I do? And just trying to be proactive and see like what else can I do to help myself get out of this. That's really ultimately what led me here.
Mm. Yeah, so many years of struggling with these symptoms, trying everything that you could get your
Yeah,
hands on, but not quite getting the results that you were
right.
looking for. So, as you went through the PMDD rehab curriculum and integrative menstrual health coaching with me, how did this approach change things for you?
It really kind of put things together for me as far as like, okay, these are all the different areas of your life that could be affecting this. And it's things you don't really think about so much, like your day to day life, and maybe things that you could just tweak a little bit. And all of these small changes have a positive impact over time. So it's like, of course, everyone's looking for a magic bullet. And so was I. I'm like, this girl must know something I don't know. I'm going to find out what it is, And I'm like, okay, there wasn't a magic bullet that she knew about that I didn't know. But what there was is the holistic approach of all of the different areas of your life that are impacting your mental health, your physical health, and really how you think about yourself and your life, and how that can actually impact your cycle and how your menstrual cycle, you know what I mean? Like how all of that impacts each other. So I'd say that was really the biggest thing, to have someone to really pick that apart and look at it piece by piece, and making small changes to each of those things that then build up over time to create a better foundation that then creates the health that you're looking for.
Mm. Yeah, so it was really having that education and perspective of just zooming out, and also a lot of the
Yeah,
reflection that we did together.
right, right. That was really valuable because I don't think a lot of people really look backwards like that, unless you're looking backwards at, ooh, that was really bad. What just happened? And you're feeling bad about, some of the episodes or altercations you've had with people from the symptoms. And so maybe you're looking backwards in like a negative kind of way, unfortunately. But having someone to take a look backwards and reflect and say, okay, well, yeah, maybe that went bad, but what could we do better next time? Or why do we think that happened like that? Or what were you eating? How were you sleeping? And kind of like looking backwards and seeing like, how are you and what's been going on, instead of just keeping going forward and not really looking at like what you're doing and
Mm,
how that's affecting you. So having, the accountability and having someone to reflect with, that was really helpful to me.
mm. Yeah, and before we began this recording, you were telling a story about the holidays and stress and symptoms cropping up that we were able to reduce during the process. But you were talking about having this understanding and awareness and kindness and gentleness to yourself through that, flare, because of the education and the experience you had, where it was just like, well, now I can point to all of these things, these choices that I
Right,
made, the stress, the changes in my routine and behavior
right.
that contributed, rather than thinking, I messed up, something's wrong with me, I'm never
Yeah,
going to
or,
get
oh,
better.
this didn't help me at all and I didn't get better. I'm not better and I'm not going to get better. It's like, no,
Mm,
I definitely was getting better. But then I decided to eat a bunch of Christmas cookies and have a margarita and, be really stressed out about the holidays and work. And it's just a lot of things to balance. And so that's exactly what it is, you know, this is a constant process of realizing where you're at, what you're doing. Do you have a foundation so that you can have a couple cookies? You know what I mean? So
mm-hmm.
being able to kind of look at yourself and what you're doing and have the self-awareness to make better choices, but also enjoy yourself and love yourself through that, and be like, okay, well, yeah, I'm really not feeling that well right now, but I I'm not going to beat myself up over it. I'm going to say, okay, I had a nice holiday and I know that the days are going to get better ahead, just like they did before. Like when we were doing this program and I was really involved and kind of tracking everything, I definitely felt like I was making improvements. And then I kind of fell off the map a little bit with Christmas. And so now that I'm back and now that Christmas is over, I'm like kind of reevaluating with new eyes to say, okay, I see what happened. I see what I did. I see what effects that had. And so I know now maybe next time, not so many cookies or
Mm,
margaritas, a little more
mm,
sleep, a little more, practice, relaxation practice during the holidays. Like, but I think the main thing, like you were saying, that for me, it was like I didn't totally beat myself up over it. I was able to have a bit more grace with myself and just try to keep myself comfortable. I took a few nice baths. I, laid down and took a break and instead of being like, oh, I'm not getting anything done, I'm so like upset with myself about this. I was like, I don't feel well. I'm gonna go lay with my cat.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
that's all the best that I could do right now. And I'm not gonna like be upset about it. I'm just gonna do what I need to do for myself and know that things are gonna get better and I make better choices. So
Mm,
I think that was a big win to be able to say, okay, I see what I did, and I'm going to just take care of myself and do better next time instead of like totally letting it unravel me and think that I've made no progress and beat myself up and all these things. So the
mm,
self-awareness aspect is so nice. And it's nice to just be able to, look at things a bit differently and know that things are going to get better.
mm. Well, and everyone's triggers are different, right? We know that
Yeah.
sugar and some of the things that you're mentioning are triggers that we've identified for you specifically through the data collection and through the work, the 14 weeks that we worked together and tried different things. And but I think a lot of people will hear us talking about this on the surface level and they think, oh, she's talking about taking a bath. Oh, she's talking about eating a cookie. Like it's not, let's not oversimplify it. The work that we
Yeah,
do
yeah.
is like pretty in depth, and it's an accumulation of choices and
Right.
behaviors and environmental
Exactly.
exposure to things. But the takeaway, I think, of what you're saying is like through the process, you really identified some of your triggers and some of
Right.
your coping mechanisms that worked for you. Um, and all of these things, it's so deep, it's so impactful, but ultimately you are able to come out of it knowing and having a different mindset and perspective based on your experience, which is what we
Right.
were here to work on. So
Right. Right.
yeah, I know people are listening
That
to
is
this
a
and
good way
they're
to put
like,
it.
I want to like take what's going to work for me, but the process through coaching is very individual. So
Right.
you're speaking to your process.
Right.
Um,
I certainly don't mean that like taking a bath and like laying down with my cat fixed everything, but it's like,
mhm,
when times are really bad and you just need something to cling to make yourself feel better, that's what I did. And
mhm,
then I tried to just keep the perspective of, I know that tomorrow's going to be a better day and I'm going to just keep trying. You have to just keep the hope that, the things that you're doing do matter, and you can't like self-sabotage yourself to continuing to make those poor choices,
mhm,
and then things do get worse. So it's
mhm,
just having the self-awareness of your choices and your triggers, like you're saying, and just being aware of that and just trying to do your best, but still enjoy yourself, have grace. Like it is such a balance all the time. And so
mhm,
having somebody to help you see that and maintain that definitely was helpful.
mhm. Yeah, and something else you mentioned before that I think ties into this before we were recording was being able to have recognition, and not just the awareness of, but the recognition when you do have a small win and these little testing moments in our lives. And you told me a story about a situation that arose and how you handled it completely differently during, a tender time within your cycle. I think you were talking about it specifically being in the menstrual phase, which we still are oftentimes experiencing symptoms then, but how you didn't think, oh, in this moment I'm going to handle this differently, I'm going to behave differently, but all the work that we did allowed you to do that. um,
Right.
and that's a huge deal, and you were able to recognize that, because so many times I remember you would come back to sessions and be like, I didn't really like focus on this or that, but when we got into it I was like, Jackie, like you've done so much, you've achieved so much. And through that process, you were able to see more and more wins. And certainly correct me if I'm wrong, but I think when I reflect on our experience together, that is a pattern that I saw play out
Yeah.
in you, and you developed that
Yeah.
ability.
Definitely.
What was it like in the moment did you realize it in the moment that you handled it differently, or was it more of in retrospect?
I think in the moment, I got more upset about something that normally wouldn't make me upset. And like I said, it was kind of from all of the triggers that happened over the holidays that kind of built up and created my symptoms to be much worse. And so then when this event happened and I felt myself starting to get upset and I felt myself like starting to cry, I thought, oh no, I know what this is. And this isn't really like that. You know what I mean? Like I could tell that it was almost a little bit of an overreaction to this. And so I was able to tell right away that this isn't me. This isn't like who I am and how I really feel. This is like a culmination of where I'm at in my cycle, all of the things I have done in the past couple of weeks kind of coming to a head in this moment and in my body. And so I could tell that this is where this was coming from. And so I could kind of be with that for a moment with myself before even confronting this person about what just happened. I kind of was able to like take a minute and be like, okay, well, I see like what this is, and then decide how I was going to react, and then actually have that conversation with this person in a more compassionate way for myself and for them, of like, listen, I know you didn't mean it like this and to make me feel like this. You know what I mean? Like, I felt like I
Mm,
had a more adult conversation and was also able to articulate that, hey, I kind of realized this is a little bit of an overreaction because this is what's been going on for me, and this is where I'm at in my cycle. And I kind of feel like all of these things led me to become as upset as I am right now. But
mm,
this is just kind of how I feel. And I didn't want to, hide that. So trying to honor myself and also the other person, I feel like I handled the whole situation really well. And thank God this person is also compassionate and understanding. That was definitely helpful as well. So I'm not going to act like everyone would have handled this situation the same
mm,
way. Having someone who's supportive and understanding definitely helps. But the main idea is that while it was happening and while these feelings were coming up, I immediately noticed where it was coming from and had the self-awareness that like this was due to where I'm at in my cycle, the triggers that, you know, came up over the holidays and kind of all came to a head at this moment. And it's kind of funny to look back on and see like, wow, I can kind of like laugh about that because I'm not in it so deep as I was,
mm.
and be like, wow, I've really come a long way. And also can we kind of laugh about how upset that just made me because it's kind of silly, instead of being like, oh my God, I can't believe I got so upset about that. I'm embarrassed. I feel so bad. Like you get all this icky feelings about yourself and like, really beating yourself up too. I'm kind of like, hey, that happened and I took care of it the best I could. And, I'll try to do better next time kind of thing. And so I feel
Oh
like that
my
was a
goodness.
major win instead of letting it derail me for days, having a huge blowout with this person, overthinking the response, overthinking it for days, feeling really
Mm,
bad about it, feeling bad about yourself, doing more self sabotaging things, more triggers, more
mm,
behaviors that are triggering. Like, I could have let that totally derail me for weeks. Like, that could have taken me on a ride for a long time, but I feel like I saw it right away. I saw it coming. I like handled it much better than I would have, in the past. So I'd say that
mm,
was a huge, huge win. And that's also after after the holidays too. You know what I mean? And like
mm,
not having talked to you and not having like really practiced everything that we've been doing over the past 14 weeks.
mm,
And so that's even a bigger win, that it's like, yeah, this program definitely had like lasting effects, that it wasn't just like, oh, while you're doing it,
mm,
you're feeling better. It's like, no, you're taking a deep dive into all these different areas of your life and into yourself, and then making these small changes that is up to you to make and make last. But, since I've been doing that, I feel like it did last for me, even though I had all these triggers happen, whatever. You still could kind of see what went on and handle it differently. So major,
mm.
major win.
Yeah, so many wins there. I mean, just from your approach, how you um, treated yourself in the moment and after the fact, how
Yeah,
you handled the situation, the self-awareness leading to you responding versus reacting to the feelings,
yeah,
the event.
yeah,
I mean, there were so many layers there, and you were really tested in that moment, right? We finished, our last session was November 18th. Um, and so, this is the first time that we hopped on a call since then. And so this was a moment in your life where you were tested. It just came up and
Yeah.
you handled it differently, and you weren't consciously thinking, okay, I'm going to handle this differently. I'm going to behave this way. I'm going to interpret this thought this way. Like it just played out and you did it.
Yeah.
And it's so inspiring and so exciting, Jackie.
Thanks. Yeah.
I'm really happy.
Yeah,
Thanks
feels
for
good.
sharing that. So let's talk a little bit about what symptoms we saw reduce in the time that we were working together specifically.
Um, I have to go back and think about it now since it's been a while that we really talked about the symptoms. Like I feel like in the beginning we talked about it a lot, and then we kind of talked more about like what's actually going on in your life. What are you doing? What are our goals? And like we were more focused on these other things. And I feel like the symptoms kind of started to decrease, but I wasn't paying attention to it so much anymore to even notice like, wow, this significantly reduced. Like maybe I could have done my homework a little bit more to be able to say this is exactly what happened. But I'd say the breast pain definitely reduced. The insomnia reduced a bit, and I think that had a lot to do with like when I was trying to go to bed, like instead of waiting to go to bed and staying awake and like doing all this stuff, like really making it a point to say, like, okay, at this time, I'm going to start to wind down and like allow myself to go to sleep when I'm starting to get tired instead of like, I don't even know what, you know what I mean? You were like doing stuff and you just don't go to sleep till late. Anyway, and I think it's just overall, all the different habits do add up. And so it's interesting to see how the symptoms decrease and certain things affect other things, like, the mood swings and stuff and how they started to decrease. Then that also could help your sleep because you're not up thinking and upset and all this stuff. And all of it affects each other. So I think that was one of the most interesting things to see, is that one improvement in one area, it could help something else in another area. So I'd say overall, my symptoms definitely decreased.
Decreased in severity, so how intense they were. Is that what you're saying?
I'd say the severity, the anxiety definitely decreased in severity. And I'd say also the breast pain decreased in severity. And then the depressive episodes decreased in severity and the frequency. Like I noticed like less often. And I guess the anxiety too, because I was kind of tracking like certain situations or certain times in my cycle where like I know I would have like really severe anxiety. I would notice like, wow, this is weird. I'm not panicking right now. Like I'm not having really bad anxiety. And I would write that down. Like I said, especially towards in the beginning of this process, I was more diligent about like writing these things down. And then as it went, I was focused less on that and focused more on actually doing the habits that we talked about. And so the focus on the symptoms kind of fell away a little bit. Like the symptoms were decreasing. And so I wasn't even really paying that close attention to them. I was more focused on like, okay, today I'm getting my movement in, or like just trying to maintain a sense of balance in what I was doing in my day, and but I definitely remember parts of the day when I would kind of check in with myself. Maybe I was on my way to work or something, and usually I'd be like really having severe anxiety. I would feel not so anxious, or like before a meeting or something. I'd kind of check in and be like, wow, I'm not nearly as anxious as I normally would be. Or, oh, I'm on this day of my cycle. Usually I'd be like really depressed. Don't feel that depressed. And I definitely recognized that. And I think some of it, I mean, when you are really taking a look at things that you're doing and not doing and, where you'd like to be, and you finally feel like you have some sense of control over your life, wow, you start to feel so much better. You start to feel not so depressed and not
Mhm.
so in the hole that you feel like you can't get out of.
Mm.
So, really taking a look at things and putting it down on paper and making goals and doing these small incremental changes, you start to feel like, wow, I'm on my way somewhere. Like
Mm.
I'm doing it and I'm getting there and I'm like getting out of the hole.
Mm.
So I felt a bit more like in control of my life. And so that really led to like much less anxiety. Where am I? What am I doing? And just
Mm.
anxiety overall across the board about everything. And then the depression too of like, I can't even deal with my life. So
Mm.
I'd say that was a big win for me to notice the less severity of the depression and anxiety and the less frequency of anxiety and depression. And then some of the other symptoms too, like the mood swings, maybe a little bit less, and the breast pain a bit less. So
Mm. Well, and I remember at some point, towards the end of our sessions together, you said something along the lines of like, when I'm not trying to just survive every day and try to figure out how do I fix the symptom? How do I make the symptom better? I can like do my life. I can,
I can do the stuff I want to do.
yeah,
It
yeah.
was amazing. I'm like, wow, I didn't realize like how focused I actually was on like
Mm.
how I'm feeling. What's this? What's that? What's this? How do I fix
Mm.
this? This is so bad. And like you're so involved
Mm.
in your own experience
Mhm.
and trying to fix it. I mean, how could you not? You're not feeling well. Yeah, you want to fix it. It's like an easy trap to fall into, but you're
Mm.
so focused on it that you're like almost perpetuating it, or you're so stuck there that you're not doing anything else. You're just in this
Mm.
space of fixing and focusing, and it just is not a fun or productive place to be. And
It's all
so,
consuming.
yeah, it really was. And that led to the depression and anxiety too, that you're just
Mhm.
spinning your wheels, not getting anywhere. And it just was really, really bad. So once things finally started to like kind of break apart and shift a little bit, you find yourself not so focused on that. And I'm like, wow, I'm like, you know, making applesauce and jarring it and like doing random projects and stuff that like I actually want to do, like
Mm.
making jewelry and crafts, or like, I don't know, even just going outside and doing stuff, in the garden, whatever it
Mhm.
is. Like I felt more like, wow, I'm doing stuff that I want to do instead of just being upset and in your own head. So,
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So I think you've painted like such a clear picture of what it looks like and feels like, and actually how it plays out to be suffering from severe premenstrual symptoms for a long time, like how it
yeah.
impacts your life, how it impacts how you spend your time, how you perceive yourself, how that plays out in your relationships. I mean, your career, you've touched kind of on all these aspects. So if you could give yourself a message, say 15 weeks ago before we worked together, or 2 years ago, or if you could speak directly to someone who's in that trench of severe premenstrual PMDD symptoms, suffering daily, can't, find a way out, what would you want to say to them coming from the knowledge and experience you have now about what is possible with this disorder, these symptoms, um, in their lives looking forward?
Yeah. I would say I know it's really hard to even think that there's any hope, because I've totally been there and thought that there was no way I would ever get better or get out of this. And this is just like, how it is now. And I dealt with that for many years. I feel like I'm like could cry. Like I feel like a tear coming to my eye, like for how I felt before. You know what I mean?
Mm, mm,
Um, and feeling like so helpless and hopeless. Um, I would just say that, you it's so much better to find someone who has dealt with it than trying to do it on your own, because I did try to do it on my own for a long time and do all kinds of research and all kinds of supplements and programs, like diets and all kinds of things like that. And, I knew that I still needed more help than that. Like I knew there was still something else. And it's hard to keep the hope and faith alive when you're feeling like that there is something else. But I would say to that person or to myself that like there is something that you can do, and it's just small little pieces at a time. Like there is no magic bullet, there is no like magic cure, but it's within yourself of like you have to really be willing to take a look at yourself, your life, where are you, how are you talking to yourself mentally? How are you feeling about yourself? It's all about, the mental and the attitude. And I mean, not to say that it's all in your head, because it's certainly not what I'm saying at all, but it's about the thoughts you have about yourself, the behaviors that you're doing, the habits that you're doing, and that all these things add up to the greater whole of the foundation of your health. And I know it sounds like kind of stupid and cliche, and when you're in it, you don't think that that's possible. Like you think like, no, there's totally something wrong with me and it's not going to get better.
Mm.
Like that's
Mhm.
actually what I thought, like for a long time, that like there's
Mm.
just nothing that can be done about this. This is like a medical thing. This is what's wrong with me. It's not getting better. There's nothing I can do. I've
Mm.
tried everything. You know what I mean? Like that is
Yep.
kind of what I felt like. I tried all these medicines. I tried all this holistic stuff. I really tried so many things. And I really think what it came down to is like a lot of traumatic things happened to me, a lot of stress happened, a lot of life changes, a lot of beliefs, a lot of like lies to yourself. Like you're not being true to yourself. You're not being true to you, to who you are and what you want to do.
Mhm.
Um, you're not living in a way that's like true to your body. Like you're kind of out there. And I feel like this, you have to be willing to take a look at all of that and bring it back to
Mm.
center, and like really try to make these small changes that add up. And it sounds almost silly to say that to someone who's struggling so much. Like I think if someone said that to me, I'd be like, no, there's no way that's not true.
Mm.
But I'm here to say that it is true and it definitely helped, and to do the work. Like it's going to
Mm.
take actual work to pull apart your life and look at each part and how it fits together and how it affects each other. And how can you make these small changes and have the accountability and the, you know, self-awareness to create your own health, and
Mhm.
that you're the only person that can do that.
Mm.
And that sometimes you need a little help to realize and remember that and do that. And
Mhm.
so to anyone, I would say, find someone like Jess who
Mhm.
can help you see this and to walk you through those changes and help you make them,
Mm.
so that there is hope and that you are your own healer. And
Mm.
that's the best thing that anyone could possibly said to me, because you really feel like you've tried everything and there is nothing else, but really
Yep.
you are the thing that's gonna fix you. And
Mm.
it's like it almost, I feel like if you were really in it, that almost sounds like, is that relieving or not? I'm not sure.
Right.
It depends how you wanna look at it. You know what I mean?
Perspective.
Because
Mhm.
some
It's
people
everything.
think like, "No, I need something external to fix this. I do.
Mm.
I need something external to fix this." And like I said, I take a low dose medicine to help me get over the hump of some of these really severe symptoms that I was having. But
Mm.
I'm expecting that over time I will be able to stop taking that,
Mhm.
because that was just a parachute or a band-aid to help me through a really, really bad time.
Mm.
And so now that I'm creating this foundation for myself, I'm seeing down the road that I don't think I will need that forever. And so,
Mm.
yeah, sometimes you do need an external thing. Everybody
Mhm.
needs something different, and this is a tailored approach to what's going on with your body and your life, and how can we get you to a better place. So that's the best hopeful thing I can say.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. There are no quick fixes. There are no cure for mood disorders, but that doesn't
Yeah,
mean we can't reduce and
yeah,
better manage them and have a
exactly.
better quality of life. So, well,
Exactly. And that's
thank
what we
you.
did.
Thank you so much, Jackie, for sharing your story. I
Thank
know
you.
that this is going to help people understand what living with PMDD is like, help people see a little hopefully see a little glimmer of hope in their future if they are
Yeah.
experiencing these symptoms from hearing your story. And yeah, it's been an honor and joy to work with you. So thank you
Thank you.
so
You
much,
too.
Jackie.
Talk to you soon.